Chapter 741. It is an unexpected child. Gu Jingming was very fast. He took Yu Minmin out of the room in a few steps. Outsiders still did not know what happened, but Gu Jingming already waved for his chauffeur to drive off. At Glazed Tile Palace. Gu Jingming stood outside. The look on his face prevented anyone from getting close to him. It was so grave in the room that one could have heard the sound of a pin drop. After some time, the doctor came out of the room. The doctor looked at Gu Jingming, lips pursed and not knowing what to say. Just then, Gu Jingming spoke first. How is she? The doctor took a deep breath. Sir, we've already done the operation. Madam's pregnancy this time is an ectopic pregnancy. The embryo was attached to the fallopian tube on one side. Now, Madam is in good health after the operation and fortunately, the fallopian tube was preserved. However, as for the fetus, an ectopic pregnancy definitely could not be continued. Gu Jingming gradually clenched his fist. He lowered his head and shut his eyes. After some time, he then slowly looked up. It was as if everything was already back to normal in an instant. He strode inside. He opened the door. Yu Minmin's face was pale. She lay there and seemed very fatigued. Upon hearing the sounds, she looked up and saw Gu Jingming. Her lips moved. The baby, she spoke just as Gu Jingming walked over. He grabbed her hand and made sure that she continued resting. We can still have another baby. You need to take care of your body. We'll try again next time. Yu Minmin froze. The baby was indeed gone. However, it did not come as a surprise to her. Ever since her stomach hurt, she already felt it. In the afternoon, Lin Che rushed to Glazed Tile Palace as soon as she heard the news. Shen Yoren tagged along. Yu Minmin looked at the two of them and smiled. It's okay, don't make such a big deal. It was just an ectopic pregnancy and it's also very common. Lin Che sighed and looked at her. Alright, thankfully, you knew about it early and you were fine. Furthermore, the president's medical team is better. They were able to preserve your fallopian tube. If you're still so healthy in the future, you can have as many babies as you like as long as Mr. President provides the power. Yu Minmin shot her a look and said, just mind your own body, don't care so much about me. You too, Yoren, I heard that you're getting married. You should be busy preparing for your wedding. I am really fine. I didn't really want to have a baby anyway. It's just that it came unexpectedly and I haven't even gotten used to it myself. You guys are being more anxious than me. Just then, a maid also came in to serve Yu Minmin some refreshments and nourishing soup. Lin Che said, let me do it. She looked at the food and said in surprise, so much. The maid explained, Mr. President instructed us to prepare these and even specially said that Madam's body is weak. We need to see you finish the soup completely. Shen Yoren said, this is so much soup if you drink it all, how many times do you have to go to the washroom? Yu Minmin also sighed and said, okay, just put it at the side. I'll drink slowly. Ever since Gu Jingming left Glazed Tile Palace, he continually having people deliver things to Yu Minmin and was a little carried away in caring for her. It made her speechless. Yu Minmin said, go on ahead. I'm really fine, it's just a minor operation. Lin Che, when you're leaving in a few days, I still want to send you off. Forget it, you should just stay here obediently to rest. You don't have to send me off. We'll do video calls after that. Lin Che and Shen Yoren bade farewell to Yu Minmin. Yu Minmin waited for them to leave. Then, she touched her belly, feeling rather regretful. If she could have kept the baby. However, it was not practical. When she married Gu Jingming, she completely felt that she was just a prop. Otherwise, how could she ever get involved with a person like Gu Jingming? However, she almost had his child just now, a Gu family's child. As she thought about this, she thought that fate was really wonderful and amazing. However, everything turned back into a dream now. She indeed could not keep the baby. Shen Yoren left with Lin Che. Shen Yoren sat in the car and looked at Lin Che. She didn't look very upset. Do you think she's alright? Lin Che said, she's much stronger than we think she is. Luckily, they discovered it early. She only just found out that she was pregnant and they already discovered it to be an ectopic pregnancy. Shen Yoren thought that it made sense. Otherwise, if they anticipated the baby's arrival but discovered that they couldn't give birth to it, that would really be heartbreaking. Shen Yoren said, I thought you two were going to have babies together. That way, the Gu family would have 2 grandchildren at the same time. Everyone would have been so happy. Lin Che said, she will always have next time. I can tell that Mr. President is actually very nice to her. In the beginning, I thought that Mr. President really only wanted to use her. That is why I didn't really like his hypocrisy. However, now that I see how well he treats Minmin, I believe that people really can change. Yes, someone like Mr. President would always have some things that they can't control. No matter how they begin, if the outcome is good, then it's also a good thing. They gazed at each other. Lin Che smiled and asked, how are your wedding preparations coming along? Shen Yoren said, my mom said that we have to be engaged first and she actually wants a dowry of 500,000 yuan. I really don't know what to say to her. However, Chen Yucheng actually gave it to her. My mom couldn't say anything and we told her that we've arranged to hold the wedding next month. We'll hold one ceremony here and one overseas. I initially wanted to say that we could get married together or hold our wedding together, but when I think about it, your guest list will probably be filled with all kinds of important people. I'd better not be a part of it. Lin Che said, actually, I didn't want to make it so grand either. Furthermore, I'm pregnant now. It's not very good if we make it too grand, but since it was already prepared in advance, we can't change it. After that incident in A Nation, Lin Che really thought that as long as they were both alive, together and that their baby was well, nothing else really mattered. The wedding was a thoughtful gift from him to her, so she had to accept it. It was also only because it was a gift from him that she was very happy too. Shen Yoren said, when you leave the country in a few days, I'll send you off since Minmin can't. Lin Che held her hand and said, you should prepare for your wedding. Dr. Chen is a very nice man. I believe that you will definitely be very happy with him. I hope so. It's just that his family is not really approving. Shen Yoren believed that a marriage that was approved would definitely be more blissful. However, his family couldn't win against him and were forced to agree. Chapter 742, you will be expelled from the board of directors. Lin Che said, that will have to depend on whether you're willing to sacrifice something else or not. Nothing is perfect. If you want to be with that man, you have to sacrifice a little. Which do you think is more important, being with him or getting blessings for your marriage? Was there a need to answer this? Shen Yoren wanted to be with Chen Yucheng. She respected and admired him in every aspect, and loved him in every aspect. Shen Yoren thought about it and became more determined. She did not think about anything else. Meanwhile, Mu Wanqing knew about Yu Minmin and also wanted to visit her. Knowing about the relationship between Lin Che and Yu Minmin, she decided to call Lin Che first. However, Lin Che said that she already went. Mu Wanqing had no choice but to go by herself. Actually, she still was not as close to Yu Minmin as she was to Lin Che. Even as her daughter-in-law, she still felt a little distant. After all, she personally picked Lin Che and she was so lovable. Thus, even though she thought that Yu Minmin was not bad either, she was not as familiar with her for now. Before she hung up, she even told Lin Che to wait for her outside. After she was done visiting Yu Minmin, she met up with Lin Che. When she saw Lin Che, she smiled and said, it's quite a pity for Minmin this time, but thankfully, you are all young. There'll be plenty of chances in the future. Lin Che said, yes, Minmin will be fine. Don't worry, Mom. Mu Wanqing sighed and then smiled at her. Never mind, you shouldn't be thinking too much about unhappy things. Your health is important. I wanted to meet you here because I remembered that we still have not bought some things. I wanted to buy them for you myself, but since you are the child's mother, after all, it'll be better if we choose them together. Lin Che asked strangely, what other things? Mu Wanqing said, just some stuff for the baby like ornaments for the room and some clothes. I want to buy some fabric so that our helper at home can make some blankets. Come and see what looks nice. Although Mu Wanqing had this plan in mind, the things she bought were not just for blankets. She practically swept through the whole mall, attracting stares with all the shopping bags. When she got tired and worried that Lin Che might have walked too much, she then took Lin Che to someplace nearby to rest. Just then, Gu Jingze also called Lin Che to ask where she was. Lin Che said, "I'm with mom at the mall here." "I know. Get more rest and don't keep walking around. Let the people around you help out. Don't force yourself." "I know, worrywart." Gu Jingze put down the phone and looked up. Gu Shand was standing at the door. He came to the company once again. Looking at Gu Jingze, he said, "I've already let the board of directors take a vote to remove your position as CEO. The entire Gu Industries is now none of your business. Come home with me." Gu Jingze stood up. "They want to remove my position. I don't believe that." The board of directors was all old friends of the Gu family. It was impossible that they would not know that they could only get their dividends safely since Gu Jingze was around. If it wasn't for Gu Jingze, the Gu Industries would have disintegrated and they wouldn't have led such good lives now. They have long affirmed Gu Jingze's leadership position and were all on his side. However, what Gu Jingze did not know was that Gu Shand showed his own face to every single member. Gu Shand only said one thing, and that he was doing it for the benefit of Gu Industries and for everyone. Gu Shand has not been the head of the Gu Industries for a long time, but his influence and power was still there. Furthermore, most of the Gu Industries shares belong to the Gu family, and the head of the Gu family now was still Gu Shand. Thus, he tirelessly convinced everyone to listen to him this time. Gu Shand looked at Gu Jingze. "Don't forget that you're still not the head of the family." Gu Jingze leaned slightly and propped his hands on the table. He looked at the old man who had already shrunk due to old age. "Grandfather, you've been going against every single person in the family for the past few years. Isn't it tiring? I've already listened to you and left Mohilling. Now, you still want to continue interfering in my relationship with Lin Che. Is this all fun and games to you? The Gu Industries will be in trouble within a week if I'm not around. Are you disregarding the stability of Gu Industries now?" Gu Shand shook his head. "No, you will understand in the future. I do everything for the family's own good." Gu Jingze knew that it was already useless to say anything more to Gu Shand. "Grandfather, can't you just think about your future generations? Lin Che is pregnant. Can't you let us off at this point in time and let the baby be born in peace?" Gu Shand wanted to, but he was running out of time. Gu Shand could only smile bitterly as he looked at Gu Jingze. "Jingze, I didn't say that I don't want the child. We will raise the child. If you must be with Lin Che, it will only harm her. Now, I still want this child. When you are so anxious, you must know that as long as I'm the head of the house for another day, you will never be able to win against me unless I die." Gu Jingze's eyes shifted. How could he wish death on his own grandfather? However, Gu Shand's gaze was cold and determined. Nobody or nothing could waver him. Even Gu Jingze thought that he had never seen his grandfather so determined before. It was as if he really wanted to interfere with his relationship with Lin Che. He was absolutely not going to let go so easily. Gu Shand said, "You can always have children in the future. Jingming told me in the morning that Minmin was also pregnant, but it was going in the end. However, you must also know that you're not the only alpha male in this family. If we want a successor, we have plenty of ways." Gu Jingze said, "From the beginning, you let me marry Lin Che because she was the only one that I can touch. My illness is still not cured today, but you think this is too strange?" Gu Shand chuckled. "No, I told you long ago. I wanted you to marry her because you could marry any woman, but you could not offer your own life for any woman. Thus, I didn't want you and Mohilling to waste time. I didn't want you to put in too much effort for Mohilling. However, Jingze, you give yourself too easily. You're not suited to be with any woman. You were like this when you were with Mohilling and you're still like this without Mohilling. You being this way really makes me begin to question my own judgment. Is it right for me to hand over the Gu family to you?" Gu Jingze closed his eyes. "You're really that determined?" Gu Shand smiled coldly. "I have no other choice either. Jingze, I wish I had more time to guide you and make you understand that women are just women. However, because of her, you actually went against me. Will you also abandon the entire Gu Industries for her in the future? I can't gamble on that. I also can't gamble on the Gu family. So I can only make this choice." Chapter 743. I'll send you abroad in advance. Ji Yushand narrowed his eyes threateningly and looked at him firmly. That's enough. You're no longer the leader of this place now. Leave this office. Gu Jingze walked around his desk silently and only picked up his clothes. Grandfather, if you continue being this way, you're going to really be a lonely person. Ji Yushand grunted slightly. When you're the head of the Gu family, you're already destined to be a lonely person. If you don't realize this now and you're still bent on protecting that woman, then you're indeed not fit to be the head of the house. I need to remind you in advance. A great man has to be ruthless. In order to achieve your goals, you have to sacrifice everything. I want to sacrifice Lin Che now, and if it's not possible in the future, I might even have to sacrifice you. Jingze, I can make you lose your position easily now. How long do you think you can protect Lin Che? For the rest of your life? Gu Jingze paused in his steps. He stopped at the door but did not turn back. He continued to step out without a sound. At home, Lin Che had plenty of things. Looking at yet another pile of stuff from Mu Wanqing, she felt helpless. When Gu Jingze entered, Lin Che said, I'd better leave the country quickly. Otherwise, I think Mom might buy the entire B city for me. Gu Jingze went to Lin Che's side, gazed at her, and slowly took her hand. Lin Che looked up. What's wrong? Gu Jingze only looked at her quietly. He was also glad that he couldn't do anything to her. He knew that she was pregnant and could only endure it. Otherwise, if he could do anything to her now, he might only get too impulsive and accidentally hurt her. After some time, he finally spoke, Okay. If you want to, we'll send you abroad earlier. Yeah, I'm fine anyway. We can do it earlier. Okay, I'll make the arrangements tomorrow. Gu Jingze took her hand. Come, let's go rest. Come sleep with me for a while. Lin Che looked up at him as he led her into the bedroom. They did not do anything and only hugged each other. It felt very warm as Gu Jingze spooned her until dusk. His gaze remained fixated on her. He gently kissed her on her eyelids and carefully pulled the blanket over her. If he could, he really wanted her to be by his side just like this. That was a thought he never had with Mo Hilling. Thus, grandfather was wrong. He did not fall in love with every woman he met. He only had a plain feeling towards Mo Hilling and never had the feelings he had towards Lin Che. He could not control his own emotions and only wanted to treat her well. He wanted to give her the world, and even that did not feel like it was enough. He also never thought that he would have such strong feelings toward someone. He never thought that this person would be Lin Che. However, he could not deny that he indeed had very deep feelings for this woman. Furthermore, he could not let go. Thus, he also needed to stand taller for her. Just like what his grandfather said, a great man had to be ruthless. In the darkness, his eyes shone faintly. Then, he slowly drifted off to sleep. The next day, Gu Jingze arranged a flight for Lin Che. Lin Che's luggage was already packed in the morning. Gu Jingze sent some people to the airport first. Then, he drove Lin Che over. In the car, he looked at Lin Che and said plainly, Remember not to roam about when you're there. Protect yourself. I won't be with you, so you have to be extra vigilant. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze. Don't worry, I will. For our child, I'll be careful too. Actually, after that incident with Li Mingyu, she was already trying her best to be more careful because she understood that one incident could make her pay the price. Thus, she didn't dare to be so casual again. However, just at this moment, a car was gradually getting closer from behind. Gu Jingze's sharp eyes turned to the rearview mirror. He saw a black car or two. When they got closer, Gu Jingze gradually increased his speed. Lin Che could feel the car going faster. They were so fast that they were surpassing the cars beside them. She grabbed the handle at the top. The car was stable, but they were going very fast. The cars at the sides watched in puzzlement. A dark blue car swerved in from the side. It went past a driver who wanted to swear loudly. However, he saw the logo on the car and mumbled sarcastically, So what if you're rich? You're driving a million-yuan car like a plane. However, everyone behind thought that something was off as that car that just flew by like the wind was followed by a few black cars behind. Wow, what's happening? Are they racing on the streets? Some people also noticed that something was wrong. This was like a scene from a movie that suddenly appeared in front of them. The car in front seemed to be running away while the cars behind seemed to be chasing after it. Lin Che also realized that something was different. She looked at Gu Jingze, whose face was as cold as ice. His lips were pursed tightly and his hands turned the steering wheel quickly. He was calm, but there was fierceness in his eyes. Gu Jingze, who are the people behind? Gu Jingze replied, my grandfather's people. They. Lin Che was shocked as she remembered what Gu Shan said to her that day. Gu Jingze glanced at Lin Che comfortingly. We're changing airports at the last minute. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Lin Che knew that, but she also understood that something must have happened. Gu Jingze was not telling her, perhaps because he didn't want her to worry. Perhaps he didn't want her to think too much. However, something definitely happened to Gu Jingze. The car flew across the streets like the wind. The traffic police in front naturally realized this early and wanted to stop them. However, they saw the blue logo on the back of the car and immediately knew that this was a Gu family car. The traffic police did not dare to take a second look as they watched the whole scene unfold in front of them. However, without any orders from above, nobody dared to interfere in the Gu family's affairs. The car went through a bridge smoothly, then turned a corner and onto a small road. Gu Jingze's judgment was quick and calm. His swift and accurate hands allowed him to successfully shake off the pursuers. Subsequently, the car turned from the trail towards the airport. Gu Jingze knew that Gu Shan did not allow him to send Lin Che away because Gu Shan already likely realized that Gu Jingze wanted to hide Lin Che completely so that he would not be able to find her. After all, Gu Shan was Gu Jingze's grandfather and they were connected by blood. He understood Gu Jingze's thoughts. However, although Gu Shan removed his title from the Gu Industries, he could not erase the abilities that Gu Jingze had been groomed to learn. He still had guards that belonged solely to him. The car finally stopped at a private airport. Chapter 744. I'll meet you when I'm done with matters here. Gu Jingze helped Lin Che down and they walked forward quickly. He grabbed Lin Che's hand tightly. Lin Che, the maids and bodyguards are all already waiting on the other side. Wait for me, I'll meet you when I'm done with matters here. Lin Che could feel the cold sweat in his palms. Her heart ached as she suddenly felt as if it was a life and death moment. However, she trusted Gu Jingze. She nodded and held Gu Jingze's hand. I'll wait for you. She nodded firmly at Gu Jingze and then smiled at him. At the control station, the staff was already prepared to proceed. The plane took off gently. After a few hours, it was completely in the sky. After a few more hours, it crossed the vast ocean. Gu Jingze turned around and watched the plane fly above him. He took up his phone and called Gu Shan. Grandfather, you don't need to chase her anymore. Lin Che has already left and you won't be able to find her. I'll tell you that I'm your only choice. The family will still belong to me, and Lin Che don't try to threaten her life anymore. Otherwise, a great man has to be ruthless. I cannot guarantee that I won't do something that will make you regret it. After a long pause, Gu Shan sighed, Jingze, you'll understand sooner or later. There's no need to. I already don't want to understand your thoughts, grandfather. After that, Gu Jingze ended the call, straightened his hands, and strode out of the green lawn. Across the ocean. Lin Che had been here for a few days. She turned on the TV and looked for news about C Nation. She soon discovered that changes indeed took place in C Nation. There was a sudden revamp in the Gu Industries and Gu Jingze was suspected to have been voted out of the board of directors. However, not one person from Gu Industries would provide details. It could only be observed that the company's stocks fluctuated, indicating an obvious internal change that outsiders could never know about. Little was said in the news, but Lin Che knew that something indeed happened to Gu Jingze. At this point, Lin Che realized that she could not stay under anyone's protection forever. Gu Jingze protected her too well in the past and even right now, Gu Jingze still wanted to protect her. He wanted to keep her innocence, but she needed to get stronger. She needed to at least be strong enough to protect herself. Lin Che understood that Gu Jingze had no other choice but to send her here first. Furthermore, this was not Los Angeles nor Hollywood. She was off the maps in Seattle. Back in C Nation, Lin Che carried out her plan accordingly. Her studio claimed that she went abroad for studies but did not give away her exact location. Nobody seemed to know that Lin Che was in Seattle. When her stomach got slightly bigger, she pushed the cart as she wandered around in the supermarket. Actually, she indeed seemed to have escaped from some things after coming here, such as the troubles of fame. Here, she could be herself in peace. Seattle was very big and very few people recognized her. On top of that, she didn't go out often. Thus, this place was like a whole different world. When she had nothing to do, she would cook at home or go out to learn different languages, piano, and archery. She would go for walks and make friends. Her days were very fulfilling and she was very happy. When her belly was bigger, she spent more time reading and going to the supermarket, hoping that the baby would be healthy as long as she was healthy. As usual, the supermarket was not crowded today. She was strolling along the vegetable section. Just as she was picking some tomatoes, she heard a familiar voice. "The tomatoes look good. I should get some." The woman's voice was gentle and harmonious. She turned around to see Mu Feiren in a dress and standing behind her. She froze. "Sister Feiren." When Mu Feiren saw Lin Che, she also froze. She gazed at Lin Che incredulously. Little did she expect such a coincidence. Because Lin Che left C Nation, she did not read about entertainment news for a long time. She did not know when Mu Feiren also came here. However, what she was more surprised about was Mu Feiren's belly. Her belly was already clearly visible. She was obviously pregnant and the size of her belly was about the same as Lin Che's. She said in surprise, "Sister Feiren." She froze and then quickly exclaimed, "Congratulations, Sister Feiren. It turns out that you're pregnant too. Are you having the child here?" Mu Feiren's gaze remained fascinated for a long time. Then, she beamed and looked at Lin Che. "Yes, I'm having my child here. I didn't tell the media about my pregnancy, so wow, you too." The old acquaintances reunited and naturally went to rest at a cafe. They ordered some simple food and drank some fruit juice. "It's been a long time since I saw the news about C Nation. I didn't even know you were pregnant," Lin Che said. Mu Feiren smiled bitterly. She looked at Lin Che and said plainly, "I don't want to hide it from you. After you saved me that day, I found out that I was pregnant." "What did that mean?" Lin Che exclaimed in surprise, "No way. That child." She gazed at Mu Feiren in shock and she nodded quietly. She conceived the child on the night that she was raped. Lin Che really could not believe it. However, it looked like she already made up her mind to keep the child. Mu Feiren touched her own belly. Her smile was a lot warmer. She was no longer the celebrity who faced cameras everywhere she went. Now, she was just a mother who was soon going to welcome a new life. She said, "The doctor said that my ovaries and uterus were injured and it was already hard to conceive this child. If I choose to abort, I might never have a chance to be a mother again, so She did not want to lose this child too. Furthermore, Mo Ding never really cared about me ever since that incident. He could not accept the fact that I was touched by another man on our wedding night. I think my own hope now is him." His hand showed lightly from inside her belly. She smiled and said, "I wanted to end my life a few times. In the end, he gave me courage. No matter what happened to me, the child is innocent. He is a blank piece of paper and I can give him any color I want. I hope he will be filled with bright colors and not be dark. So I want to keep him, teach him, and nurture him. I want him to have an outstanding life." Lin Che always admired Mu Feiren very much. Today, she admired her courage even more. She had been through so much. She went through pain, glory, and setbacks. However, she still fought to live. Lin Che really respected her. Chapter 745. The old man at Gu family is scary. Lin Che looked at Mu Feiren. "So what are you going to do next?" Mu Feiren laughed. Although that sense of pride could no longer be seen on her face, she had gained composure. "I will definitely keep the child and raise him." "Oh yes, what's your address? You should be staying around here, right? If not, why would you come to this mall? Did Gu Jingze come together with you?" Lin Che raised her eyebrows. She laughed as she shook her head. "He's busy with his own matters and I have my own things to do too. I will give you my address." When we have time, we can go out together to have fun since we live so close to each other anyway. That would be great. I was also getting bored by myself. Lin Che was not bored. Servants, chefs, bodyguards, she had many people around her. However, being able to talk to Mu Feiren made her feel great indeed. Both of them could accompany each other until they delivered their babies. It would be very interesting. Thereafter, Mu Feiren often came to look for Lin Che. Both of them planned many activities together and had also invited their neighbors to the gatherings. Back home, Lin Che did not attend Shen Yuan's wedding. Instead, she got someone to give red packets on her behalf. On the other hand, Yu Minmin came to the wedding. Shen Yuan's parents were very amazed by her presence and called her over to take a picture together. They also went around bragging to their relatives that Mrs. President was their daughter's friend. Shen Yuan's wedding was very grand. Her wedding dress and gowns were specially customized. Even though Chen Yucheng's parents did not return from America, the wedding did not appear to be less grand. Many guests specially traveled from abroad to show support to Chen Yucheng, but the Gu family who had very close relations with Chen Yucheng did not turn up at all. It was said that because the revolt was still ongoing, the Gu family were busy settling their internal affairs and therefore, Gu Jingze could not attend the wedding in person, but he told someone to bring red packets on his behalf. After the wedding, Shen Yuan and Chen Yucheng went back to America to register their marriage. They held another simple wedding there. When they came back, Shen Yuan was moving somewhere with Chen Yucheng. Shen Yuan's mother muttered under her breath, "Life is good for you. You are going to move to a comfortable place and live in a two-story villa while we still live in this small apartment." Shen Yuan did not hear her and continued packing her items. Shen Yuan's mother continued, "Look at Yu Minmin. After she became Mrs. President, she immediately brought her parents to live in the villa." Shen Yuan paused and glared at her mother fiercely. She wondered if she had committed any sins. Other parents would always spare a thought for their children, but not her parents. She said, "I have nothing in the first place and now, we are still going to demand from their family. Mom, do you really wish to see your daughter despised in the family? Would you really be happy to stay in a house that I have exchanged with my blood and tears?" "Sigh, what are you talking about? I never wanted you to beg them. Their family is just being inconsiderate. They have so many houses. It wouldn't make a difference even if they gave you one, right?" Shen Yuan felt that she would never get through them, so she decided to not say any further. Chen Yucheng was playing on his mobile phone while waiting outside her house. When he saw Shen Yuan walking out, he smiled and put his arms around her as they walked to the car together. Then, he gave her a peck on her cheeks. Shen Yuan said, "Stop fooling around. Other people will see." "What's wrong? There's nothing wrong with kissing my own wife. So what if someone sees us?" Shen Yuan felt a message vibration from her phone. Chen Yucheng knew that it must be from Lin Che. He inched closer to take a look, but Shen Yuan moved away. Both of them had been sending messages to each other every day, but Shen Yuan would not let him read them. Chen Yucheng felt very indignant. "I'm your husband, why are you trying to hide things from me?" "Yes, I promised Lin Che that I would not disclose her information to anyone. This is Gu Jingze's arrangement. Are you not going to listen to him?" Chen Yucheng rolled his eyes. "Seriously, you are really hiding it so secretively. Who cares about that? I'm not doubtful of you, but it's always good to be a bit more strict about this. It's all because the old man at the Gu family is too scary." Sigh, every family has its own problems, but Gu Jingze would definitely outlive that old man, right? He's so old now. When I see him these days, I feel that he's most probably only going to live for another few years. No matter how much money the Gu family has, it won't help him extend his life for more than 5 years. Shen Yuan said, "Although I feel that it's wrong to curse others, I really think that it might be better if this evil man is dead. Sigh, you would think that I am very cruel and evil, but I'm only telling you this. I'm not cursing him for real, but I just had that malicious thought in my mind." "Of course not. You are my wife. Whether you are well-natured or vicious, you are still my wife." Putting his arms around her, he kissed her. Outside, Shen Yuan was watching from the balcony. She saw them kissing vigorously in the luxurious Porsche and became extremely jealous. They were both daughters from the Shen family, but one was so fortunate while the other was. She looked at herself and felt that she was dressed too shabby. Shen Yoren initially thought that she might never gain Chen's family favor, but after she became pregnant, she found out that she was expecting twins. Without any external help, she got pregnant naturally. She did not take any fertility drugs and conceived the twins naturally. The Chen family was thrilled and definitely intended to bring her to America so that she could care for the fetuses in peace. After the children were born, there would be a few nannies taking care of them, and that would ease Shen Yoren's burden. Otherwise, she would be worn out by these two children. At the same time, things at the Gu family began to settle down. Gu Jingze finally got hold of the power to reign. After changes in the authority in Gu family, he became the biggest shareholder and thus, the head of the household was also handed to him. No external forces could hinder him anymore. However, Shen Yoren heard that lately, Gu Jingze was becoming very close to another woman. She could not help but feel very angry. However, Chen Yucheng simply told Shen Yoren, "Don't worry. He has not fully recovered from his illness and is still on medication. Even if there's a woman beside him, what can he do?" Shen Yoren suddenly remembered that he still had the illness, that no woman could have any contact with him. She said angrily, "That won't work either. No women are allowed within a 3-meter radius." Chen Yucheng shook his head and said, "You ladies are too demanding. No women within a 3-meter radius. Besides women, there are only men left in this world. He can't possibly hire all men in his company, right?" Shen Yoren hit Chen Yucheng lightly and said, "But I heard that this woman is someone's granddaughter. That person seems quite powerful and has control over the military. Gu Jingze will not get together with her just for their power, right?" "Forget it. Does Gu Jingze still need to rely on their power? He was just being nice to her on the account of the friendship between both families. You can't make him kick her out and not let anyone get close to him, right?" Shen Yoren muttered, "Anyway, that was not what I heard. People say that he dotes on her a lot." "Alright, don't jump to conclusions without any significant evidence." Chapter 746, Which family does this little imp belong to? It was May and the flowers were blooming. At Seattle. Lin Che quickly pushed open the door. She shouted into the house, "Sister Feiren, did you see Nianian?" Mu Feiren was making milk for her child. Then, she walked out with a milk bottle. Looking at Lin Che with a shocked expression, she asked, "What's wrong? Is he missing? He didn't come here today. I'm making milk for Union. Hold on, let me ask Union if she saw him." Union was sitting obediently on the chair. When she heard some sounds, she lifted her head and pouted her lips. Her big sparkling eyes made her look like a little elf. "Union, did you see Brother Nianian?" Mama, Brother Nianian doesn't want me to tell you." Lin Che came in hurriedly. "What trouble is he going to create this time around? Why can't he tell me?" Union said, "Auntie Lin Che, Brother Nianian is not going to create trouble. He's going to do some important things." Lin Che heard her words and sensed that something was wrong. Union fiddled with her 2 small legs. The way she toddled in her little skirt was very adorable. "Union, tell Auntie. Otherwise, if Nianian stirred up trouble, I won't be able to help him and he will be in big trouble, right? Union is most well behaved, unlike Brother Nianian who is so mischievous and only knows to get in trouble every day. Union, can you tell Auntie quickly? Auntie is very worried." Union was 3.5 years old and was born half a month later than Nianian. Therefore, she was younger and Nianian was the older brother. However, both of their characters were worlds apart. Union was sweet and obedient, but Nianian was less expressive and mischievous. The two of them grew up together and were very close, so Mu Feiren eventually moved to live next door. Now that they lived a door away from each other, the two children could play together. But that day, Nianian was missing since morning. She thought Nianian came over secretly to look for Union, but she found out that Nianian did not go over at all. Union hesitated for a long while before she pouted and said, "Brother Nianian said that he wanted to go and look for his father, so what? So, he went to take the big airplane." Lin Che was about to collapse. "Where did Nianian go?" "Gu Shinian, just you wait. He was only 3.5 years old, how could he take the plane on his own? How could he possibly travel to sea country?" But in any case, Gu Shinian had really run off. He ran off on his own. C country. The plane landed at B City International Airport. The passengers alighted from the plane and were shocked to see a child tugging his own luggage. He was walking out while looking at his mobile phone. Those who had sharp eyesight took a quick glance at him and discovered that this little kid who seemed so young was looking at the navigational system. Not long after, he held up his mobile phone and was making a call to someone. He spoke into the phone. "Hello, I made a booking for hotel pickup service at Seattle yesterday. I'm at the airport now. Where are you?" The person on the other line could not believe his own ears. The voice sounded very much like a child. Meanwhile, the person who was standing nearby saw the little boy and asked anxiously, "Hello, little kid. Why are you alone? Where are your parents? Have you lost your daddy and mommy? Do you want me to get a police uncle for help?" The little boy lifted up his cold eyes. His black pupils occupied a huge part of his eyeballs, so his eyes appeared very bright and sparkly. Those eyes resembled black pearls. They were so clear that it would leave anyone in awe. However, his face was sullen. He heard the woman's words and replied nonchalantly, "Miss, you are the one who needs to look for the police. Your mobile phone is stolen. Didn't you realize?" The woman froze and immediately looked for her mobile phone. Then, she screamed, "Ah! Where's my phone? Why is my phone missing?" The little boy shook his head disapprovingly and muttered to himself, "She can't even handle herself and still want to poke into other people's business. Nowadays, people really have nothing better to do." Soon, he was seated in the car that the hotel had prepared. The hotel chauffeur could not believe his eyes. The person who made a booking at their hotel yesterday was this little imp sitting at the backseat. Why did the hotel approve the booking? He was all by himself and was very young. Did their online server not detect that? Meanwhile, this little imp successfully checked into the hotel with his American passport. Then, he told the chauffeur, "Get someone to bring my luggage up and send me to the GU Industries on the way." But, after speaking, the little boy fished out a banknote and told him, "Thank you. Here's a tip." Everyone who passed by the little boy in the hotel was staring at him. He strode confidently and his expression showed no signs of the innocence of an ordinary child. His face may look very young, but he looked very composed and was more composed than an adult. He took out a small, black-rimmed glasses from his pocket and put them on. He adjusted his glasses and the dark eyes behind the lens shot out a sharp glance. "Daddy, I'm here. Are you ready?" At the same time, Lin Che had tried her best to buy the earliest flight to C country. At the airport, pulling the luggage with one hand, Lin Che had her phone in another. "Minmin, I will get there soon. Now, I'm worried that the little imp had already gone to GU Industries. No matter what, you must stop him. That little imp is difficult to control. Once you see him, don't believe anything he says. Don't be fooled by him." On the other line, Minmin said disapprovingly, "Are you kidding me? That's your son. Who speaks about their own son like that?" Lin Che was having a difficult time. She was very worried about the little imp yet angry at the same time. She would definitely teach him a lesson once she found him. "You have no idea how rebellious he is. Anyway, you will know once you see him." Minmin said, "All right, but you are not planning to tell Gu Jingze that you are coming back?" Lin Che paused for a moment and replied to Minmin, "No, just let him fool around all he wants. I'm living in such a carefree life abroad. Why should I tell him? I'm going back once I find my child. So, we'll leave it at that for now. I'm not planning to tell anyone." Hey, he clearly can't touch anyone and you know about that. Emotional infidelity is even worse. Alright, that young Luo fellow is the one chasing after Gu Jingze. I feel like Gu Jingze doesn't care about her at all. She's not a low-profile person and has been going to many public events, so everyone thinks that Gu Jingze was doting on her. Minmin thought, he was doting on her. Those people were plainly ignorant. They were not aware of how much Gu Jingze doted on Lin Che previously. However, Lin Che did not want to talk anymore. She looked at the time and said, "All right, I'm boarding the plane now. Go and find Nianian first. Don't worry, you can leave it to me. I will definitely help you catch that little imp." Chapter 747, Lin Che returns. Lin Che boarded the plane and switched off her mobile phone. After the plane had taken off, she turned on the in-flight screen before her and watched the news. GU Industries bought over the Sanjin Group, expanding their realm to half of M country. After the Gu and Yun families joined forces, the individual value of Gu Jingze has tripled and the number of his supporters have also increased by 30%. Regarding the expansion of GU Industries' business empire this year, Gu Jingze expressed that he will only control the headquarters. As for the development of individual portfolios under GU Industries, he would be observing them as he did not want any of them to hinder his personal development. Staff from the internal department revealed that Gu Jingze has fully taken over the GU Industries. The previous head of household Gu Shant has now retired. In fact, Lin Che had already known about this. Shen Yoren had informed Lin Che angrily, saying that there was a vixen around Gu Jingze. She was 1 year older than Lin Che and was still single. She was always around Gu Jingze and there had been very ugly rumors spreading about them, saying that they were having an affair. When Lin Che first started to live by herself, there were times she felt truly upset. However, she began to understand gradually. Both Gu Jingze and her were not strong enough. Therefore, their love could not overcome the obstacles in reality. Knowing this, she wanted to get stronger so that she could fulfill her role properly instead of always being protected by Gu Jingze. In this way, she could choose to love that person, but not let others rule over her. Therefore, Lin Che made up her mind to not hear any news about Gu Jingze. She focused on enriching herself and raising her child. Although she was feeling a little upset towards Gu Jingze, deep down in her heart, she believed that Gu Jingze had his own reasons for everything he did. If she could not trust him in that sense, she would not be able to get stronger. Of course, she had some resentment towards Gu Jingze. Especially during these few days when the collaboration between the Yun and Gu family was all over the news, she was bent on not meeting this stinky guy. She thought to herself, she was only going there to take Nianian away and make Nianian reflect on his actions. She was not going to let Nianian see the father whom he had never met before. Lin Che had never kept it from Nianian. Nianian knew who his father was and he knew his identity. He knew that the people who had been around him were the convoy of the Gu family. He knew that his father was busy expanding his business empire and had many reasons for not going over to meet him. Nianian was very sensible compared to his peers. He knew about many things. Sometimes, Lin Che would think that he had inherited all of Gu Jingze's intelligence and capability instead of hers. She wondered if Gu Jingze was like that when he was a child. In any case, this little imp was getting out of her control and all she could do was to not let herself get deceived by him. While Lin Che was rushing to see country, a little imp appeared outside Gu Industries. He lifted his head to look at the Gu Industries building. It was exactly the same as what he searched online. It seemed like he had come to the right place. Gu Jingze, his biological father, must be somewhere in this building. He walked into the building quickly. Inside, the receptionist was surprised to see a handsome little boy appeared at the door. "Little boy, may I ask who are you looking for?" Because the little boy looked very handsome, the receptionist unknowingly spoke in a gentler tone. He raised his head and told the beautiful lady before him, "I'm looking for your boss." "Our boss?" The receptionist asked strangely, "Which boss are you looking for? Which department? Which department is your father in?" Gu Shinian said, "Yes, my father is the boss of this company." "Which department is he in?" After hearing that his father is the boss of a department in the company, she became more patient while speaking to him. Gu Shinian said, "The highest-ranking boss." "What?" Gu Jingze Shinian said. The receptionist stiffened upon his words. She looked at him speechlessly and asked, "Little boy, are you sure? I heard that President Gu has no children. Don't make a nuisance here. If your father is really the boss, then you should quietly wait for him at the door. If it was your mother who told you that, she must be lying to you. You can't believe all the words your mother told you." The receptionist thought to herself disapprovingly, how could the mother lie to the child? She thought that it was because their president was too popular, so some mothers became so delusional to the point that they told their children that Gu Jingze was their father. Look at what they have done. They taught the child the wrong things and now, one kid came to their office to look for his father. Gu Shinian did not want to waste any more time. He simply said, "All right, how about this? Give this to my father and tell him I am Gu Shinian and I'm here to settle the score with him. The receptionist took a look at the thing he gave her. It was a photograph. In the photo was a woman holding a child who looked familiar. At the back of the photograph was a line of letters forming a name. He said, "That's my English name." The receptionist took the photograph and thought to herself, she wished she could bring it Gu Jingze. But she could not. She was just a receptionist and would not have the opportunity to meet such a powerful figure like Gu Jingze. This, I don't think I can give it to him. You see. At that moment, a powerful and influential person pushed open the door. Looking at the little boy who was standing at the entrance, her eyes lit up, Gu Shinian. She called out his name perfectly and went up to him quickly. The receptionist was shocked for a moment, but she was in awe when she lifted her head. It was Mrs. President. The person who was walking towards them was Mrs. President, Yu Minmin. Lately, she attended many banquet dinners with Mr. President and was very lovey-dovey in public. People had seen them and therefore, were able to remember her looks. Moreover, the relationship between Mrs. President and the Gu family was very clear. The staff of Gu Industries would definitely know what she looked like. Gu Shinian turned around at once, but when he saw the person walking towards him, he froze for a moment and appeared a little guilty. However, he regained his composure very quickly. He looked so calm that it made the people very surprised. "Hello, Auntie Minmin, it's our first meeting. Nice to meet you, but I'm here to find my father." The receptionist gasped in horror. How did he address Mrs. President? Yu Minmin was speechless. She replied, "All right, this is not our first meeting. When I first saw you, you were still in nappies." In the blink of an eye, he had grown so much and became very cheeky. Indeed, he seemed different from the other children. Was it because of Gu Jingze's genes? They were too powerful. Yu Minmin had only seen him once. When she went to America, she passed by Seattle and went to visit Lin Che secretly. Even though they had been keeping in contact through phones, she had not visited Lin Che ever since, but probably saw him a few times in their video calls. Chapter 748. Gu Jingze, your son is in trouble. Gu Shinian replied, "Fine, you came at the right time. I want to see my father but they wouldn't let me in." Yu Minmin said, "Your mother is worried sick. You have to leave with me quickly. I will bring you out." Fortunately, there were not many who knew that he came out on his own. If someone knew that Gu Jingze's son was roaming around the streets, that would be trouble. Gu Shinian wanted to resist, but when he saw the convoy that came together with Yu Minmin, he simply shrugged his shoulders and said, "All right then. Let's go." Yu Minmin was surprised that he actually listened to her. She took him to the car hurriedly and was thinking to herself, Lin Che might be mistaken. Lin Che said that he was a little demon, but from what she had seen, he was actually quite obedient. In the car, Yu Minmin gave Lin Che a call, but it did not go through. Thinking that she must be on the plane, she called Shen Yoren quickly. "Yoren, don't look for him anymore. I have already caught him and we are now on the way to your place. Let him stay at your place for a few days while we wait for his mom to bring him back home. Don't worry, we found him at Gu Industries. He didn't see his dad. In fact, he wouldn't have been able to see his dad today. He's not even at Gu Industries because he went to the state banquet." She hung up the call and looked at Gu Shinian, who was sitting obediently beside her. That small face, that small mouth, and his expression resembled Gu Jingze, but it was slightly different. The genes of both his mother and father had blended very well with each other, and that gave him his very own unique charm. He was more handsome. In the future, he might be better looking than his dad. While she was deep in thought, Gu Shinian said suddenly, "Auntie, I want to pee." "What, now?" "Children can't hold their pee. I have no choice to," he said. Yu Minmin was speechless. Would children who could not hold their pee say that? Nevertheless, she got the driver to stop by the road and went into a mall. She wanted to bring him to the washroom, but he refused and said that he wanted to go to the gents. Thus, she got someone to follow him while she waited outside the washroom. However, after a short while, the bodyguard came out of the washroom and reported hurriedly, "Madam, this is bad. Young master is gone." "What?" Yu Minmin was so shocked that she almost dropped her mobile phone. "What did you say?" The bodyguard was also very shocked. He pointed inside and said, "Young master said he wants to poop, so he went into the cubicle." But after a long time, there was no sound at all. Even when I knocked on the door, there was no response too. I broke into the cubicle and realized that young master had escaped through the window. Yu Minmin pushed open the door and searched through the washroom, but there was no sight of Gu Xinian. She hurriedly ordered her guards to chase after him. She gave Shen Yoren a call and told her gloomily, "We are done for. I have lost him again. I suspect that he went to the state banquet when he heard us talking about it on the car." Shen Yoren did not understand. What did she mean by she lost him again? Yu Minmin told her the entire incident in a short summary. Shen Yoren could not stop giggling on the phone. "How could you be deceived by these small tricks?" Yu Minmin said in astonishment, "You call these small tricks? He's merely 3 years old. Besides, he behaved normally in the car and looked very innocent. His big eyes were very sincere. You have not seen that look. You would never be able to guess that behind his obedient look, he was already planning something in his mind. It's my fault. Lin Che had warned me to not believe this little demon's words and I thought he was just a child." "Alright, what are you going to do now?" "What else can I do? I'll go and look for him, of course." Yu Minmin sighed and said, "Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to Lin Che." At the state banquet. This was not considered a grand state banquet. The people who came were some of the wealthiest men in the country, so there were not many at the banquet. After all, to be invited to the banquet held at National Assembly Hall, those guests must be of extraordinary identities. A few people were crowding around and talking among themselves when they saw a delicate woman walking in from the other side. She was in her 20s and took care of her complexion very well. Her face looked very soft and tender. She appeared very elegant. Her eyes scanned through the hall and her graceful and calm disposition as a well-bred young lady showed naturally. She did not have to say a single word and yet she was exuding a different kind of aura that surpassed everyone in the hall. "Did you see that person? She's Yun Luo. I heard that recently, Gu Jingze had been really doting on her. Indeed, Gu Jingze came today and she's here as well. She's really beautiful. Beauty is secondary. She's also the daughter of the Yun family who has control over M country's military forces. That's what's most important. Logically speaking, Gu Jingze would not care about the Yuns of M country. Yes, but now, we are talking about identity. She stands out from the rest. Gu Jingze is such a powerful and influential man. His woman must be better than others too, right? Then, they will look compatible together. Iya, I'm so envious of her that she can stay by Gu Jingze's side." "Don't say it anymore. Look, the Gu family is here. Gu Jingze is also here." Gu Jingze has indeed arrived. Just as he entered the hall, Yun Luo was already by his side. She smiled at Gu Jingze. "Jingze, you are here." As the miss of Yun family, Yun Luo was unlike other demanding missies. She was always very calm and graceful, not affected by anything else, and sometimes, people would not know what to say to her. Gu Jingze replied to her with a and told her, "Your body is quite weak, so stop walking around. There are rooms inside where you can sit." Yun Luo had been suffering from congenital heart disease since she was young. It was a blessing that she was still alive. Yun Luo said, "Don't worry. I'm just going to stand for a while. Nothing will happen. Thank you for leaving me a room." Yun Luo looked at him with those big sparkling eyes and she seemed very grateful for his gesture. Meanwhile, outside the banquet hall, a little demon appeared in the sight of the security. He was holding on to the invitation and wanted to get into the state banquet. He had stolen the invitation card from Yu Minmin and handed it over to the security. The security looked at him in shock and questioned him, "What's your relationship with Mrs. President?" Gu Xinian lifted his head and said, "Mrs. President is my godmother." The security would not believe him. He had never heard of Mrs. President having a godson. Moreover, it was a little kid who brought the invitation card here. The security said, "Wait here. I'm going in to ask." Even though he said that he was going to ask, he called the headquarters immediately instead. "There's a kid here who is pretending to be Mrs. President's godson. He looks suspicious. But the strange thing is that the invitation card that he is holding is real." Meanwhile, Gu Jingze had already sensed that something was wrong. He got hold of an opportunity and sneaked into the banquet. When the security turned around, Gu Jingze was nowhere to be seen. The security was taken aback and quickly sounded the alarm in the security office. This is bad. Someone has barged into the banquet. Look for him immediately. Suddenly, it became very chaotic. The security was mobilized to look for the missing boy. At the same time, they reported to the security team in the banquet hall that a suspicious boy had barged in. The guests in the hall were distinguished people they could not afford to let their guard down. Meanwhile, in the banquet hall, Yu Minmin was feeling helpless. She had already searched the entire place but he was nowhere to be found and the security had started going around to catch the little boy. She was at her wit's end, so she ran to Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze, it's bad. There's something that I need your help with and only you can help. Gu Jingze's eyebrows furrowed in confusion and he looked at Yu Minmin. Although they were both in Gu family, Gu Jingze had not spoken to Yu Minmin directly like this for ages. What's the matter? Your son is in trouble, she said. Chapter 749, that's Gu Jingze's son. Gu Jingze's eyes flashed. Outside, some security guards were mobilized to search the entire place but they could not even find a little imp. Where did he run to? You can't even watch a kid properly. If he barged into the hall and knocked into the big shots inside, you will bear the consequences. The leader of the security team shouted. We lost sight of him the moment he entered here. I wonder whose kid is it? Would they be fierce? Enough, I have never heard that Mrs. President has a godson. It's clear that someone stole her things. That's a thief. Why are you concerned about a thief? Everyone listened on and searched through the place hurriedly. They were preparing to deal with him like how they would deal with thieves once they caught him. In the end, they still could not find him even after combing the entire area. Just now, someone saw a figure heading in the direction of the washroom but when they went into the washroom, he was gone again. The security team was enraged. Someone shouted in anger, little imp, watch how I'm going to punish you once I catch you. Then, someone shouted, come here quickly. He's here. Everyone dashed over at once. The security pointed at the door and said, he went in but it's locked from inside, what should we do now? The leader snorted and said, knock down the door, I would like to see it for myself. Who on earth is he? A kid can have the capability to trick you guys. The people who stood at the back took out some tools. The leader knocked on the door vigorously and shouted, you little brat. Come out now or I will whip your butt once I get in there. To think of coming here and deceiving us, you must be sick of living. I will educate you properly on behalf of your family. Who taught you to steal at such a young age? There were no sounds inside. The leader was lashing out angrily but there was no response. He asked, could he have escaped? The security who stood at the side replied at once, it's a storage room. There's no window so he can't possibly escape. Knock the door down. A few men went to pry the door open. After a while, the door flung open. Inside, Gu Jingze had nowhere to hide. He stood inside and looked at the people who charged in. Hey, actually, I'm here to look for Gu Jingze. The men were shocked. Then, the leader laughed out loud. He went up to him and pulled him by his shirt. Little guy, try to escape again. Wait and see how I'm going to punish you. Where did you learn these from at such a young age? However, at this moment. Stop there. A cold voice with a tinge of anger called out from the back. The men turned around and saw Gu Jingze standing behind them. It was a small storage room and it seemed very crowded at one. Even though it was only Gu Jingze who walked into the room, that powerful presence had shrouded the rest of the people at once and even if it was a bigger room, his presence would have still made it seem small. Then, Yu Minmin and Yun Luo came rushing over as well. The bodyguards of the Gu family had also swarmed to the room. The leader took a glance at the kid who was in his grip and shifted to look at the Gu Jingze's furrowed eyebrows. The cold gaze in his eyes and that of the little boy were exactly the same. Gu Jingze's eyes were fixed on Gu Jingze's small face at once. With a slight movement, he was already standing next to the leader. He kicked the security aside and put his arms around Gu Jingze's tiny body and pulled him into his embrace. It was his son. His son. Gu Jingze looked at him and kept his eyes peeled on his small face. Gu Xinian had his looks, but he also resembled Lin Che. From this small face, he could clearly see Lin Che in it. Even though he missed her badly, he knew that he could not go and look for them. Gu Shand was right. Ruthlessness was the mark of a truly great man. To become ruthless, he needed to be callous. He had to remove his soft spots and weaknesses. Otherwise, he would not have been able to come so far amidst the chaos in the Gu family. For the sake of Lin Che and the child's safety, it was not just for a short while. To ensure that they would not have to fear others in the future, he gave up temporal joys and disguised himself into a person of steel and worked very hard. Now, he had finally become the head of the household. He just had the thought to go over to see Lin Che and his son, but little did he expect Gu Xinian to come and find him first. How could he not be shocked? How could he not be surprised? Gu Xinian looked at the man who was carrying him speechlessly. Can you put me down first? If you carry me like this, it's somehow out of my plan. The people at the scene gasped in horror. Who on earth was that little kid? Meanwhile, Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes at this little boy. Your plan? Where's your mother? Did she come here too? Where is she now? Is she here? Gu Jingze asked continuously. Gu Xinian replied, I plan to help my mother ask for a divorce so that my mother can go out for dates with other uncles and I will have a father. If you carry me like this, I won't be able to say what I want to say. Ask for a divorce? Nianian, I'm your father. You will only have one father, which is me. Your mother will only have a husband and that's also me. There are no other uncles and there will never be. Do you understand? Father. The people were shocked. What did Gu Jingze say that this little imp was? This little boy was Gu Jingze's son. The people were taken aback. When did Gu Jingze have a son? At the back, Yu Minmin watched what had happened. Although she did not manage to fulfill her promise to Lin Che, seeing the reunion of father and son made her very touched. Who said that it was always good and rosy to marry the rich? Very often, there was more helplessness that people did not see. Yu Minmin had witnessed Gu Jingze working hard and his loneliness all these years, and now his labor had finally borne fruits. She was very happy for them. As for Lin Che, forget it. In any case, she knew how Lin Che felt towards Gu Jingze, even though she said she did not wish to see him. However, it was still the couple's own private matters, so she was not going to get involved in it. She thought that they should deal with it themselves. Young Luo, who was standing by the side, was stunned. She stood there looking at Gu Jingze and the little boy. This is Jingze's child. Hearing that Yun Luo was muttering to herself at the side, Yu Minmin folded her arms and went up to her. Yes, why? Didn't Gu Jingze tell you about it? Yu Minmin shrugged her shoulders and looked at Yun Luo. Probably because she was more biased towards Lin Che, when she looked at Yun Luo, she felt that Yun Luo could not compare to Lin Che in any way. Chapter 750. Lin Che threw him on the floor right away. At that moment, she wished that Lin Che could come back quickly so that these people could see for themselves who Gu Jingze truly loved. No matter what people said, now that she had brought back a child with her, they would not be able to gossip about Gu Jingze and that woman anymore. Gu Jingze did not say anything else. He carried Gu Xinian and headed outside. Tell me first, where's your mother? Gu Xinian said, let me go first. No, you have to tell me first. Gu Jingze said firmly. Young Luo chased after them and asked in a shocked tone, Jingze, what on earth is happening? Gu Jingze turned around and said, nothing. I just have some family matters. Go and have fun, I have to settle some matters. Young Luo was very puzzled after she was dismissed by his few words. She was about to say something before she saw the boy in Gu Jingze's embrace turn his back at Gu Jingze and flash her a scornful expression. That expression was as if Yun Luo was a lowly woman and Yun Luo was taken aback. Yu Minmin caught up with them. She looked at Yun Luo and said, I'm sorry. That's Gu Jingze. As long as it concerns Lin Che, he will not care about anything else. When Lin Che returns, I will get her to talk to him. Go back first, or should I get someone to pick you up? Yun Luo's face flushed red. She lowered her head and laughed. Lin Che, Was she Gu Jingze's previous wife? What do you mean by previous? Yu Minmin looked at her unhappily. She's still his wife, all right. Yu Minmin was outrightly being sarcastic. She did not hold back and glared at Yun Luo. Yun Luo was appalled. Growing up, nobody dared to look at her with disdain and even talk to her in such a rude tone. However, the person who was talking to her was Yu Minmin, Mrs. President. She could only stare in shock, looking at the first lady who was so hostile at her without any reason. Yu Minmin snorted. She walked past Yun Luo and headed for the door immediately. That expression made Yun Luo even more puzzled. Lin Che, what kind of person was she that she could carry a child for Gu Jingze? Gu Jingze excused himself from the banquet and brought Gu Xinian back. Meanwhile, Yu Minmin did not know what to do. She took out her phone immediately and called Lin Che. Fortunately, Lin Che had probably got off the plane and the phone got through. Minmin, how are things now? It's bad your husband took your son away. Sorry, I could not control your son. I didn't manage to stop him in time. What? At the Yun's. Yun Luo returned home looking a little upset. Yun Kuoshan saw his precious daughter's expression and asked, what happened? Aren't you supposed to be with Gu Jingze at the banquet party? With a pitiful look, Yun Luo said, Jingze's wife has returned and she even brought a son back. He left me at the banquet by myself and went off. What? His wife you mean, the woman who's called what's her name again? She's back, how can that be? It's true. Yun Kuoshan remained silent for a while. He knew that his daughter liked Gu Jingze for very long and he had absolutely agreed to let her be together with Gu Jingze. After all, that was Gu Jingze. He banged his hand on the table. I'm going to Gu family and ask Gu Jingze for an explanation. Yun Luo saw his reaction and chased after him. Dad, don't go on your own. At the Gu residence. Seeing that Gu Jingze brought a kid home, the entire Gu family was shocked. Goodness, is this young master? His looks resembles Madam. How about Madam, is she back as well? Although there were many rules about how the servants had to behave, they could not help but feel excited at that moment. However, Gu Jingze looked at the boy standing in front of him whose face was completely unafraid. Tell me, where is your mother? Gu Xinian replied, didn't I say already? I don't know too. However, at this moment, someone informed that people from the Yun family had come to the house. Gu Jingze took a glance at Gu Xinian and got someone to watch him. After he left the room, he told his guests, Mr. Yun, I have some family matters to settle tonight and would not be able to host you. Yun Kuoshan asked immediately, Jingze, what's going on now? Why do you have a child all of a sudden? Your grandfather never mentioned that you had a child. Didn't he say that you were divorced already? Upon hearing the word, divorce, Gu Jingze's eyes glistened with anger. Who dared to say that he was divorced? That sudden and fierce glare from Gu Jingze, even though Yun Kuoshan was much older than Gu Jingze, this young man made anyone scared. Especially the glare that he showed moments ago, it was calm yet filled with anger. Yun Kuoshan quickly corrected himself, no, your grandfather probably just mentioned it. Outside. Lin Che got out of the car. She lifted her head to look at Gu residences and it felt as if she was dreaming. Even after many years, nothing here had changed at all. She quickly ran over. She had not expected to see a few cars outside the gate. They belonged to the Yun family and there stood a few bodyguards. They were the Yun family's bodyguards. Seeing that someone was charging straight towards the Gu residences, the bodyguards of the Yun family stepped in to stop her. Miss, you can't enter here. Lin Che looked at them. You are. However, the next moment, she saw the Yun family's logo. The Yun family had also started coming over to Gu residences at night. Lin Che sneered and told them, I'm here to pick up my son. I have nothing to do with anything else. Speaking, she continued to walk further in but was stopped by the few men. We are telling you nicely that you should not come any closer. Otherwise, the knives have no eyes and nor do the guns. Lin Che assessed this bodyguard and with a nonchalant expression, she said, "Thank you for your advice but I do not need it." The bodyguard wanted to pull her away but he did not expect this skinny and weak-looking woman to turn around and grab his wrist instead. Not knowing where her strength came from, she easily threw the strong-looking bodyguard over her shoulders and onto the ground. The other bodyguards immediately surrounded her. "You have the guts to lay your hands on us. Do you know who we are? Besides, this is the Gu family and you even dared to barge in like this. You may seem small but you have a lot of nerve to do that." Although it had already been a few years, Lin Che still looked like a young lady in her 20s. After all, she was very young when she met Gu Jingze and thus, she was not very old now. Lin Che looked at them. "I don't care if it's you all or even Gu Jingze. Nobody can stop me from picking up my son." "Ha, look at how boastful she is. Stop here." Meanwhile, at that moment, Gu Jingze came walking out of the house. The gate flung open and his voice pierced through the dark night, "Lin Che." Lin Che froze as if she got an electric shock. She lifted her head towards the direction where the voice came from. Just as she heard him calling her name, a familiar figure came approaching here. Gu Jingze, it was indeed Gu Jingze. However, Gu Jingze walked up towards her and Lin Che grabbed onto his arm fiercely. The first greeting that she gave him at this reunion was a throw on the floor. Gu Jingze was thrown onto the cement ground. Crashing onto the ground, Gu Jingze was still in shock and did not realize what had just happened.